good morning, everyone. It is 9 a.m. I think
She's gonna join us online. I just got finished up a meeting. I thought she was gonna jump on, but.
Okay, yeah. All right, approval of the minutes.
I approve.
So do I. Consent items, do you want to pull anything?
No.
All right. We will move on. Oh, 3G is on consent. Okay, so we will move on to 4A, the new pay structure for marshals in detention.
Okay. So I have a proposal. It's going to need your approval to move forward because it is going to be a cost in my budget. So I'll have to come for spring supplemental for a minimal amount and an increase in my budget. So since I came here, we have been looking at some issues with not only our detention pay, but our marshals pay. And we've been trying to address it, and it just keeps, the issues just keep compounding and coming forward. When my first year here, we had detention officers, their starting pay was less than employees at Target. And, you know, when you know what our detention officers go through, it's kind of hard to recruit people and keep them. And we had, you know, issues with the pay overlapping, and it, you know, we've been trying to address it, and it's just kind of come to where we just need to try to address it once and for all and get it over and done with. We have some, you know, DOs that are making more money than 2 ranks above them, which doesn't, there's no incentive for them to promote. It also, it makes lieutenants feel a little bit, you know, I mean, you know, when you're supervising somebody that makes more money than you and you have more responsibility, you have more, you know, liability. They're on my team.
And we have the bells. We have the bells on.
They have more liability. They just have more responsibility. It's just not what we would like to see. And it also, you know, when we're trying to retain them and recruit them, it's just an issue. And we also have one range that makes their range is less than the range above them and below them. And it's just, I mean, it's just kind of all different things. And when we do adjustments for years of service, it just kind of makes things even worse. So you'll see as we go through what we're looking at. So if you could go to the next slide. So this is for the marshals. We have Marshal 1s, Marshal 2s, lieutenants, deputy chief, and a chief. This doesn't show it very well, but when we have our 3, 5, and 10, because we've been making adjustments in the ranges, if we made the adjustments for the 3, 5, and 10, we will have some Marshal 2s that make more than our new lieutenants. And you can see the ranges, they really overlap a lot. So if we have some long-term employees, they will go into ranges for ranks above them. And you'll see it a little bit more in the detention. So we can go to the next slide. So what our proposal is that we go to a step proposal. So it'll be according to the years. So step 1 would be year 1, step 2, year 2. We will get rid of pay for performance and years of service steps. But if, let's say, for instance, the city gives us 4.5% for raises, we will increase these ranges by 4.5%. So they will stay here. Everyone will be at the same level. We will still have, we will not have Marshal 1, Marshal 2. They will just be in these steps. When you get to step 6, you will stay there except for the increase for that the city gives for the increase. So let's say for some reason the city is having financial issues and there's no increase, they will stay there. All lieutenants, which we have 2, will have the same pay because they are doing the same work. We only have one deputy and the chief marshal is there. So if you would go to the next slide. So the cost to do this for, and we're going to take the money that's given to us for the pay for performance to offset this. So the cost to go to this would be 75,000 for the first year and 57,000 for year 2. And if you go to the next slide. And then we'll go to the pension, and you'll see this a little bit more if you can go to the next slide.
Candace, can you just for a second? Because we're trying to.
Steph can't hear.
Stephanie can't.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't want you to. Let us see this.
So now we're not muted. Can you hear me now?
Sure.
Steph, can you hear us?
Can anybody hear us online?
I can hear you.
It's gotta be our settings. That doesn't.
We got thumbs up.
Okay, Jack can, but not Councilmember Hancock.
She's muted.
And
Anybody else?
Captain Lannigan can hear us. We're going to thumbs up for Pat. Thank you, Captain Lannigan.
Hey, you can't hear us at all? Alright, well, we're gonna move on. I don't know. Everybody else can hear us. You want me to put you on speakerphone and you can just listen? Yeah, all right, that's what we're, yeah, do that too.
Audio settings.
All right, bye.
Sorry about that.
Okay, she's on speakerphone. Well, she just hung up, so I. She's just gonna log out. And I don't know.
Right, all right, we got the professional, we got rid of the amateur, we're gonna professionally troubleshoot it, there we go, all right.
Okay, you want me to go ahead and move
Yeah.
forward? Okay, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so you can see here a little bit more with the compression issues in detention. We have a detention officer if we do the proposed adjustments, he will move up above 3 other detention officers and also above a detention tech, which is supposed to be that's supposed to be a promotion above a DO and also above, several ranks. So you can see how this is just gets worse every year that we go into it. So this is what we're dealing with every year. If we just can't get out of this, it just keeps getting worse and worse. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is the same thing. We're basing it off of the same kind of concept where we have steps for the entry level, step 1, 2 through 6, depending on years of service. We're going to get rid of the detention tech and just make it a detention officer, senior detention officer. So our senior detention officer is the one that does our transports. And then a sergeant, lieutenant, and our deputy and our chief. So it's the same concept. They will stay the same. There would be no years of service change, no pay for performance. However, they will still get their annual review. If it is below expectation, they will not get the step increase. It will be used to take into consideration for performance or for promotion. So it's still important. And nobody is going to get less pay. Some will get a little bit more of an increase, but nobody gets less. So this is what we're proposing. If you can go forward, and this has a little bit, because there's more employees in this department, it has a little bit more of an impact on our budget for next year. maybe. So it would be $157,000 for this next year. Then the following year, it would be $78,000. If you can go forward again. So, and then additionally, the concern is as we keep progressing, and we've done so the last few years, at some point we need to look at the salaries that are coming into the deputy in my position, because they haven't been changed in the last 3 years as we've moved these salaries up. One of the things that we've run into with compensation is that they keep comparing us to other municipalities. And one of the problems is that it's easy on some positions to compare to other municipalities because you can find like positions, but there is no other municipal court you can even, ask the judge, that has a probation department, that has an IT, that has a marshal's office that is in charge of courthouse security and the perimeter, and, that does
Well, I
transport.
don't just stop you right there. You don't have to sell that. This is
Oh,
Aurora.
okay.
You're not gonna compare Aurora's municipal jail to some, hold on, maybe whatever city.
Well, there is no other city that has a municipal jail. There is no.
My point, thank you.
Yeah.
Too drunk on that one.
But that's some of the things that we're running into is our compensation team, is trying to use other municipalities, and you just can't. And, they don't want to compare us to other detention centers because they're larger. But what and my team is here, I don't get a chance to sell for them, and I know I don't have to sell them to you, but they are responsible. And, when you have a large detention center, you can have like a specialty, like I do intake, I do fingerprints, I do transports, but my officers have to be able to do all of that. And the first 48 hours is the most dangerous time for inmates, and they are responsible for the first 48 hours. Transports are the most dangerous time with inmates, and they do transports daily, multiple times. So their responsibilities are huge. And so even though you don't want to compare them to Arapahoe and Adams in Denver, in order for us to keep them after we've trained them for 16 weeks, I think we have to. So I know I know there's a danger there, but you either pay here or there. And I know, Tina's gone through the same thing. You invest in your employees, you should invest in keeping them because we've spent money on them. So I'm hoping that we can continue to address this and look at it, even though I have this here to adjust their salaries. And, we're going to be set on this, and I hope that you support it. And when I come, if you do for the spring supplemental, it's only $200,000, but I hope that we continue to look at this, because even though we're proposing this, I'm still not sold on the ranges that we have for either our marshals or our detention officers, because without them, I think our police department, they're a temporary holding center, but they're taking these, the prisoners, and they're allowing our police officers to get back out on the street and not having to go to Arapahoe and Adams and standing in line for 2 hours. So they're a really important part of the puzzle of our, our whole law enforcement.
Candace, I think we got it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think we got it. For me, of course, this doesn't have to be sold to me. I just have an issue with doing away with pay for performance. Because for me, some people just naturally work harder than others. And I struggle sometimes when this person should get the same pay raise as this person, when this person just does twice the work anyways, because that's their work ethic. So I would say that's my only cause for concern. I know that your chiefs, I'm sure, where they go, where there's one month. I'm sure that they, will keep an eye on that. I personally am not of the mindset of keeping employees just because, just to fill a spot, I guess, if they're not doing their job. But of course, I want them to, have competitive pay. And, you know, for me in the military, sometimes, you know, a sergeant with a certain number of years made more than a tech sergeant or a sergeant made whatever, right? So that does happen. I've seen that. But I just hope that we're not just giving people pay raises simply because of how long they've been here. That sounds very Mark Sears to me, even though I love Mark Sears.
I was gonna say government, but I mean.
Government.
Those are in government.
Don't make her form her own union.
I know, right? I mean, I can step in. Yeah, of course, I want this. I just hope, it just makes me nervous when we start talking about doing away with pay for performance, because then I think that.
Yeah, we did a lot of research, and I mean, I think, and I mean, the chief could probably speak to this, but it's modeled off of what other law enforcement and what, you know, Denver Sheriff's Department, how they model their ranks.
And that's where, who came from Denver Sheriff? From Denver Sheriff?
Lance in here.
They both came from Denver Sheriff.
And Paul.
All right. Okay, they win. I support this.
Got to say that the paper performance caught my ear too.
Yeah.
You said you eliminated at least one position to save some money. It seems like.
I did?
Did you? I thought.
Oh, no, we eliminated one. We didn't do it to save money. We just eliminated the tech position. And we'll just have our, you know, all officers do that.
Technician rank.
Yeah,
Technician
we-
ranks.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand how the competitive pay is critical to avoid attrition, because retraining is expensive. You need to keep great people.
Like you're thinking,
Yeah.
especially when I come.
Yes, of course, I've always supported, the marshals and detention, so I support them.
Me too.
She finally made it on.
Unanimous, like it.
All right, well, we support it.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think that just puts us to public safety action plan update. Mark Sears, you're in a suit. Are you presenting to us? What is going on?
You
I don't recognize you.
But no, I clean up pretty well
I've
sometimes.
never seen you.
What are those
I
socks?
have PTO.
You're like incognito.
I'm doing undercover white collar crime. I'm in the JJ's.
If you would like a sidekick, if you want a sidekick, I'm available.
Yes, ma'am.
so.
Yes, ma'am. I have presentations to do to my membership.
Okay, all right. Public safety action plan update.
Number one is, obviously our staffing and crime reduction. So you see the staff numbers up here. In terms of that, Chief, any updates in terms of our academies and those folks through or on the attrition side?
The academy is going forward, so we're looking really good with that. We've lost 3 people out of that 40, so I think we're down to about 37 right now. Our attrition rate, as of October the 5th, year-to-date 2024, we are at 76 for attrition rate of 11.1% rate. Year-to-date 2023, we're at 84 for a 9.5% improvement year over year. Our attrition is at 81. Which included losses of 76. We had 32 retirees, 43 resigns, 1 term, and 1 net gain. And we had an additions of 81. We have 77 academies, and we had 3 statements. So we're looking good.
Questions on that? I know we talked about it and not in this number, but in the number up above, the numbers that John provides. I know last meeting we spent some time talking about the folks that are on light duty or military or things like that. So that's in that first item there. If you guys want those numbers as well, so I can either pull them up or if you have any questions on them.
Are we seeing any laterals? Is there any interest from any?
We have seen a couple laterals come on. We've seen 2 that's been on. We're still struggling though. Our authorized numbers, and I'm going to give you some numbers because I do think it's important to put it into context. Our authorized are at 748. Current right now, we have 673, 75 vacancies. Operationally though, based upon what we actually have out in the field, we're at 572. And the reason for that is we have 16 on light duty, we have 3 on military, we have 10 injured light duty, we have 4 restricted duty due to IA investigations. And so even though the number looks, 748 is authorized, we're nowhere near 748. So we're still moving forward on that. We are without question reaching out aggressively. We're getting laterals. We're also reaching out in a recruitment campaign, trying to focus on our community colleges, trying to focus on junior colleges, trying to focus on the new communities within, in and around Aurora. And that's something that we're constantly talking about.
Can you say the number again, what we actually have working 500 and what?
572. And when you break that down, I think it's really important to put it into perspective too, what is actually on patrol, what's out on the street. And what is actually out on the street right now is authorized is 216. So that's authorized for patrol. And we actually have 198. And so we are down about 18 as far as that. And again, that's why when you saw the movement occur, you saw the DART team come out of special ops to get put into control. That's exactly what that was for. We'll try to reframe what patrol is doing, how they are doing it, to support the PAR teams that are already out there, support the crime focus that we're doing. And with that, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole here real quick, but I'm going to pass this out to you and I want you to take a look at it. Because this is kind of the template of what we've been passing around as far as our crime strategies, and you're going to see it broken down. A draft, I send it out to all of our command staff, I send it out to, they in turn send it out to all their patrol. Basically, it's a strategic focus to take those 572 officers we have, take those 200 that are actually in patrol, get them to actually focus on the most problematic areas, most problematic people, and to do it. This is the rough draft of that. What ultimately came out of it is what you see here, and this is Division 1, so this is up north. And this actually shows the most violent individuals involved in crime. It shows a hotspot map of the locations that are most problematic in and around that particular area. It shows the time of day, which the crime is the most problematic. It shows the type of calls that are going out. It shows the addresses of those calls so that officers can specifically focus on those. And then it gives highlights on targeted individuals, targeted enforcement. So what you see there is what is now shaping and becoming our model across the PD and for our officers. And the big part of it is not just about looking at crime events and saying, hey, we've had to get this many citations or this many reductions in crime, but it's what is that matrix built towards? What are we comparing it to and how long are we comparing it to? So that is becoming this, which is now becoming reduction in the crime and an increase in some of the field-oriented actions that those officers are doing. The modifications, again, when you look at the modifications of those commands, that was done strategically to make sure that the best people were in the right spots to have the best impact. So like when I moved 3 into special ops, that was because I needed an evaluation done specifically of what is occurring in special ops. How is SWAT functioning? What are they functioning like? How are they going to call for service? How are they doing search warrants? What are those search warrants involved in? What's the screen down mode? The SWAT need to be in every single search warrant that the department does, and they don't. And so there's new matrix that we're building out for that. He is running with that question. The commands shift over to Division 1. Again, I think you're going to see the impact on that with Commander Gaskill. That was specifically done to take that strategy and put it onto a working thing that an officer, any officer, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, will know these are our hotspots, these are our focused areas, these are where we're going, these are our calls for service.
One quick question, because you said that for District 1.
Yeah,
Have you pulled the same for 2
so
districts?
they're all doing it now.
So are we looking at, because I mean, me, not being a cop, but just living in the city, to me, it seems like we need more resources in District 1, where we try to keep it equal throughout the districts. Are we looking at maybe shifting? some
Well,
resources?
again, and that's where District 1 does have a slight number increase as far as personnel staffing. Right now, they're our highest as far as patrol resources. 2 and 3 are also staffed, but the one thing I don't want to do is take our resources from other parts of the city and have them become problematic or have them not get the service that they deserve. And so it's not about using the resources or just manipulating the resources to keep throwing more officers on it and over policing something. It's about doing it strategically. It's about doing it smarter. It's about stratifying policing. There's a lot of what you see in this. It's about finding the objectives, what those objectives are, what those locations are, what those hotspots are, what those small groups of individuals that cause the most problems, and focus on them.
So when we first came on council, and I know that you put back on bringing in help from the county. But when we first came on council, staffing levels were so bad that Arapahoe County was at least providing our school resource officers.
Right.
And we had those. So I just don't understand the pushback on asking the counties for help in some sort of capacity. If we turn the schools back over to them, if we, you know, whatever we can do, I guess I just don't understand. Cause these numbers, they're at least as bad, if not worse.
Yeah.
Than when we had Arapahoe County staffing our schools.
Yeah.
So again, I don't understand this pushback on collaborating with the county sheriffs to utilize more resources on patrol.
And it's not about pushing back on collaboration. It's about making sure that our organizational is sustainable and what we do for the community. And again, when you look at Arapahoe, you say, okay, Arapahoe's got this many individuals or this many officers. You got to understand that the majority of those are pressing the as seen button, trying to opening jail cells and get people in and out of incarceration and things like that. They're not all out of control. I did do a research. I spoke to the people that were here when the SRO program was going, and they said that was problematic. It wasn't some fluid thing. It was a challenging working aspect. And again, I've been in law enforcement for 35 years. I have never seen another agency, unless it was a mutual aid at a crisis situation, and this is not a crisis situation, use resources from another agency to come in. I don't believe in it. I don't think it's necessary at this point. If I felt, hey, we have lost it, and yeah, we got to call the National Guard and call Arapahoe and do all this, I would say, yes, we're at that point. I'm not going to be stubborn to the point that I'm going to let somebody get victimized or bullied or mistreated based on my ego, because that's not what this is about. But when I look at what we're doing, when I look at our crime stats, when I look at where we're going, we are still down in crime. Overall, we are down in crime. Again, when you look at our crime rate, we're down 31% on motor vehicles. We're down 4.5 on robberies. We're down 11.6 on non-fatal shootings, and we're down 11.1 on homicide and murders. So again, that tells the story that crime is going down. There are problem areas that we are going to focus on, but I'm not at a point where I'm going to break the glass and say that we need other agencies to come in. And at an organizational and a functional level, and again, Mark's here, I don't know what his feelings is about this, but as the chief and as someone that's been doing this for 35 years, bringing somebody in to take care of what you can't take care of is demoralizing to an agency. You got military experience. I don't know if you, during your time, would have wanted to see the Navy come in and handle something that, I don't know what branch you were in, that the Army was doing. It's not supportive. Air Force, I don't think you would have wanted to see the Army come in or the Navy come in and say, hey, Air Force, you don't have this.
A lot of times they did. I mean, a lot of times they would just show up, you know, unannounced because they were the Marines or whatever. So I do understand that.
To that point of breaking glass, I think we're moving in the right trajectory right now. I think that with these 40 officers coming out, again, it's not going to be like manna from heaven where all of a sudden we're staffed fully. But again, when you look at Arapahoe, I'm sure that they aren't staffed fully. When you look at Denver, I guarantee you Denver is not staffed. Law enforcement across the nation are struggling right now on staffing issues, and we are no different. Again, we don't have to have more. We have to be smarter with what we have, because I'm not going to say, hey, just do more with less. That's a stupid statement. But I am going to say, let's look strategically at how we are fighting crime, where we are going, what we are doing, making sure the officers, Tina and I are focused on making sure, again, I go for calls for service. I look at how many get canceled before officers even arrive, why are those calls coming out? So we are looking at that to say, what can we do to even avoid that queue being filled up from the time an officer steps in the car to the time they get out, so that they can go do proactive police work.
Related to this, I went to coffee with a cop at Target, Hancock, talking to the store management. They seem to be encouraged on a positive note that the change in leadership to the commander level at the top has been showing more proactive policing. I think while we were there with 9 cops, someone was still stealing something in the store, believe it or not. But one of the couples talking to the officers, they pointed to a 2017 study. It's probably one of those $200,000 studies that gets put in a binder and shoved on a shelf and gets dust on
No,
it.
Jim Pouchon, but keep going. No, it's okay.
So
Good government, what?
the police
We're not
department, it's
respect-
called the Police Department and Communication Center Staffing Study, so it's related to. And page 93 talks about a review and establish policies for elimination of categories of calls. So these guys were talking about this study and saying that there's a lot of changes have been done since then, but there still seems to exist some calls for service that shouldn't really be in a police officer's realm.
Right.
Whether it's animal control, incorrigible children, lockouts, runways, and they had practical examples for me, but sounds like to some of the people on the street, that's still a concern. And I know you're working on it.
I think there's a little more context for that. So there have been several changes that have occurred since then. So our issue when that came out was a number of those recommendations were simply to close the door. And what we needed was an alternative pathway for these residents and visitors of our city so that we were providing them service.
CRT was one of those things, right?
Correct, and AMRT is a part of that. And so we've been working to right size calls for service so that the ones that are going to patrol are the ones that should go to patrol. The work that we do in the next 6 months with police protocols is going to more granularly refer those calls or give us the ability to refer specific calls in different directions and pathways based on the circumstance for each individual call, which will allow us to be more prescriptive. But what we encountered was a number of those recommendations were simply to say no. For us, the problem is without being able to provide a different pathway, the person feels unheard and unserved. They're likely to call back and to be escalated because they're frustrated. And so our request was identify the other pathways, help identify that. And then when that happens, we'll build that into our process and we'll guide each caller to that alternative pathway. So from our perspective, we're simply sort of waiting. We're contributing, but also waiting for guidance on what that looks like. And until then, we have to have a way to serve the caller. And that's what
The analogy I'll use is the work that fire did.
Well, I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, so the work that fire did, so fire went through all the protocols, they did that, and you have to come through with like, okay, what is our response, right? And so for those low acuity calls, we had a response matrix, whether it was transferring somebody to the nurse line, sending just, out with the BLS, we had a response going out so that we could resolve that call. It wasn't just, fire saying, well, tell them to suck it up. It's not that bad. Take some aspirin, leave us alone, right? Like that wasn't the response. They got some response. It may have not been what they wanted. Like in previous, it was like, yep, I had 4 heroes in a fire truck show up. We didn't do that anymore. We gave them a different response, but they got a response. That's the work we need to do on the police side. 100%. There's calls that are going there. We can't be doing it. We can't be sending a copy. It's crazy,
And I think
right?
one of the biggest
We've got to
ones
figure out what
is parenting. I have a lot of cops tell me that they get called to come parent someone's child. Like my son's not listening to me, my daughter's not listening to me.
We're gonna have to figure that out. I mean, there's neighbor issues. I think Chief was talking about the other day, and you brought it up, we had somebody call in because their neighbor was doing drywall work and the drywall was blowing into their house or their yard.
This was an example that was given to me.
Yeah, and so, we've heard that again. So that's part of that. We've got to go through that and figure out like, what is that response? I will tell you the other thing, when we do that process, just like we saw on fire, where now they've gone through and they've done that really heavy lift to figure out, okay, what are our highest of high calls? Like, what are the highest priorities? Let's identify those and then make sure that that's where we're getting the resources to, right? That's the crime in progress, right? Where there's an immediate threat, an ongoing threat of danger, violence, life and limb. Boom, let's get there, right? Like that's the one. And then, that means that other things are going to be less priorities, but now we've done the work to define that.
Does that mean we need to form some unique teams out there, perhaps of some
So we're
hired folks that go around?
Well,
and-
that's what
There's
about
a
the
long-term
reserve force?
strategy, and then there's a short-term strategy. And the short-term strategy, we already put somebody up there in communications. It's gonna be there full-time. It's gonna cycle all those calls and say, hey, I have to take responsibility, drop this call. So it doesn't fall on the operators. And so that's the short-term Band-Aid fix that we're doing right now. The long-term is, again, what you're looking at. We're trying to hire somebody from the outside who's prior experience, knowledge, understanding, bring them in to work in partnership with Tina's shop. to do what the Band-Aid is doing right now, but to do it more long-term and do it strategically. So all these things are in going, and there's different stages of how we're gonna measure success on them. And also on the attrition rate, what we're also doing, I don't know if you guys are aware of it or not, but I also just civilianized our entire support bureau. So the captains that are there, the commanders, the lieutenants that are there are gonna be cycling out and getting, one was gonna retire, another one's retiring soon. The one who was gonna retire, I'm gonna retain him in a civilian position, so he's gonna stay on civilian. The other captain spot is going to be filled by civilian again, and that's going to give us basically 3 more lieutenants and 2 captains that are gonna cycle out of the support services section. It allow that to go into the field, to allow under these divisions that have not had functioning captains and have lieutenants been acting, give them actually what they need to support the troops, the officers, and the community. So all these things are unfolding as we've been speaking.
Madam Chair, you brought up a little bit earlier about, you just struck a nerve, and I'm probably gonna get out of my lane here for a second, but.
I want to Arapahoe County.
No,
I know where you're going.
no. I'm talking about lateral hires.
Yeah, yeah.
When we started the incentives more than a couple of years ago, we got a lot of applicants. But now what's happening is the cities around us are, they're meeting us or just going a little bit higher. So I think, I don't know, I guess, is there council support, maybe to look at moving some of the incentives up, like the hiring bonus?
But we've done so much money.
Oh,
So much
I
money.
don't want you to- yeah.
I'm fine with where we're at.
And the bottom line is it comes down to morale. What I have done, and all the police officers I have talked to, is that it comes down to morale, making sure that the right leaders are in place. Because we have some wrong leaders in place. So it comes down to morale. There, in my opinion, Mark's gonna disagree. We can't throw more money at this. Like if the officers are not happy, because we came out swinging through everything we had at the police department. So much so it got us in a big fight with the fire department. That's how hard we came out for the union, not you. We've never been you. But I mean, we have thrown so much money at the police department. And if I thought that was the answer, I'd line it up again. But what I know now is it comes down to morale. It comes down to the organization of the department, and it comes down to having the right leaders in place, and it comes down to officers being heard. And it comes down to when officers are reporting things like a transnational gang, they get that support. That support comes back. They need to feel supported. They need to feel heard. For me, again, if I thought that we could throw any amount of money at this for the police department, I would line that up in a heartbeat. That's not weird. That's not what the issue is. It's not.
Fair enough.
And I agree with you, and I wouldn't take any money right now at this point. I don't think we're there. I've had a detective from another agency. He saw what we're doing over the past couple of months. He wanted to come to his department and come to Aurora PD. And I couldn't do it because one, he's a detective, and he wanted to lateral from a detective to a detective role, agent to an agent role. And again, I think that would have been detrimental to the department as well, because somebody who was waiting to make detective would now be able to make detective. And I wouldn't take a sergeant from Denver who said, hey, I'll come over, but I'll come as a sergeant. It's not gonna happen. Because I think that would be detrimental again to the office support. So again, I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for time. I'm asking for the opportunity to continue pushing down these strategies and these functions. And I continue to ask for the opportunity just to get this department to where it needs to be.
I will say personally that several police officers that I've talked to, they are happier. They are happier since you got here. I hope that at some point you really understand the epic failure that was your office before you got here. From me to you. But many officers that I have talked to, it is starting to shift. It is starting to shift.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
I get referred to a lot more in here, but when we talk about morale, I think I'm a key component to be able to speak to that, representing the largest lodge in the state as officers. And I agree with you 100%, by the way, that I don't think it does take money.
Right.
I think it does take morale. So I agree with you 100%. What I also agree with is everything the chief has said too. And we now have a strong rudder in our ship that is directing a fine bunch of police officers that work really hard. And I would just ask you guys to also give Chief Chamberlain the time, because the vision that he has and what he's already put in place is just unbelievable. It's a light at the end of the tunnel for us, and it's great. So I would just ask the same thing. And the morale, speaking on behalf of that, has increased enormous. It's been huge.
And that's what I've found out. That's what I have found out. So some of the cops with maybe the lowest morale in the department, I circled back with. And they even sound different, and they're talking different. Ones that were talking about leaving, they've told me they're gonna ride it out, right? So I've done my own due diligence on what you're doing, chief, and that's absolutely where I'm at. This isn't about money, this is about morale. I talked to enough officers to feel like, I mean, I'm not the union president, but I talked to enough to feel like I can get a pretty good grasp on what's going on. And I do know that there has been a shift. There has been a shift recently. With some of the changes you're making. I just hope that we're always looking at having the best people in the best roles, and that you're surrounded by the best people. And I will leave it at that, but I appreciate what you're doing and the direction that we are going in.
Second item, and I think this is actually, quite frankly, the work that the chief just talked about. If you read this, and I'll read it out just for folks. The second item of the action plan is the department shall improve overall data collection, utilize hotspot analysis to put more officers on patrol in key neighborhoods, and improve efficiency through data analytics. I think the chief just gave you in real time how that's doing. So I think this is really, over the last just short time he's been here, he's got us on the front foot with this, right? And I think quite frankly, previously, let's be honest, it was very passive, right? Like, oh, this is what crime's doing. The chief and his team now, where he's laying out that vision to how we're going to, what are we doing to impact these numbers, not necessarily simply passively reporting them out. So I think that's key there. He gave you the numbers. I won't dwell on it, but again, I think you're seeing that strategy you all laid out played out into action.
Even modifying some policy like giving chase to DUI.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and discretion.
Yeah, we've got really successful relationship. Yeah, we've been really good with that, and they've used their discretion. We've had two DUI cases that started as DUIs. They ended up resulting in arrest for people who have been stealing vehicles. So it wasn't just the DUI itself. And then we had another one just 2 days ago where an officer went into pursuit of a DUI. The actions of the pursuer got so intense that that officer used his discretion and cut down the pursuit. They found the car later. It was a stolen car, but still it showed that balance between care for human life and care for crime. And so it's really moving forward, and actually it's empowering them to do what they should do as be police officers.
Okay, so that's on a second item. On the third item, talking about our youth violence program. Jessica, you want to kind of give us the updates there in terms of where we're at with the SAFE program? And obviously, we've got the update here on the award, the grant award. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, just, kind of a highlight for this past month was receiving the grant. I think you all saw press release and had some communication about that, which is exciting. Being able to bring on violence interrupters, which has been a key gap and part of our PSP assessment of what needed to happen. So that will be coming about in the next couple of months, as well as some other key pieces to fill within the program. Customs continue to happen as well, and we're up to about 100 now in the first year of the program, which is exciting, and making plans for another call-in early next year. And staff is also going to be, both my staff and staff from the police department, presenting at the National Public Safety Partnership in a couple of weeks in Minneapolis, which is exciting to just show the program. Last week, we also had folks from Ventura, California out to shadow the program and do the peer exchanges, which is part of the program, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I wanted to tell you also, I did my due diligence on the nonprofit that I've always had an issue with. And what you told me is true. That individual is no longer associated with that nonprofit. So I fully support the way the funding went.
Yep.
So.
All right. So again, very similar, I think, actually what the chief talked about there, taking the resources we have and focusing them on our most at-risk youth. So again, I think you're going to hopefully see that theme where we're trying to be data driven on this, identify those most at-risk youth, just like we're doing our most violent and dangerous offenders, we're trying to be focused with the resources we have. Okay. Fourth item is our crisis response team. You kind of see the calls there. Jessica, you want any other updates on that one?
Not much to highlight here. These programs seem to keep going well. We had one clinician vacancy that's now been filled, still having great partnerships with UC Health. We did add some success stories. Councilmember Sundberg had asked for us to include that just to kind of not just show the numbers, but tell the story, which I think is really important whenever we're communicating data out. So there's a few success stories there. We did the same thing with the homelessness section, which is the next one as well.
Go ahead and scroll down a little bit. Let's just so we can pull up that success story there. So just again, in terms of just that different response that was sent out. So.
Yeah. As we were just saying, drywall could be a code response and a mental health crisis should be a different response. Either really needing police all the time. And on homelessness, just moving on, if there's no questions on the CRT or AMRT, just continuing to show the abatements. We've had some transition with the pallet shelters, which you all know about. Salvation Army has really kind of decided they did not want to continue through the winter in Aurora. And so we also had to shut down the restoration site due to their construction starting. They're building a senior affordable housing project. And so we're making some different plans for every night sheltering over the winter. Right now we're doing cold weather sheltering at the Day Resource Center, and that's working well. So you'll see a less of a referrals into the pallet shelters, but we do still have cold weather shelter and other shelter options. We're looking at doing every night shelter starting January 15th, utilizing the navigation campus and transporting folks and still using the Day Resource Center during the day as we start into construction. I do want to highlight the veteran numbers. We're actually being recognized as a region and having some pretty significant. Every Tuesday, we do case conferencing with many of our nonprofits and case managers on veteran homelessness. Having the VA in Aurora is also a huge asset for us, but Aurora and Jefferson County have seen quite a bit of decrease in veteran homelessness and getting folks to house. They have the availability to have a VAC voucher, which makes it a little bit easier. And then just a couple success stories of reunification of an individual to their family. We do through our Flex Fund provide bus passes, and this person was able to get back with their family. And then a success story housing a veteran. So without the pallets, we're still making progress. And then I'll just highlight for the hard court, we are working currently right now with the Public Works Department to get signage installed. And the homelessness PD team is up and running. We've been able to collaborate with Sergeant Sears and team and my staff on that as well. And move that forward, be able to have a little bit more influence on private property, which I know we get a lot of complaints about. So I see that team as a huge asset there because the camping ordinance covers public right of way. And so that team can work with code enforcement on private property, which is exciting. And then the plan is to start the hard court in January.
So just when we talk about veterans, are we actually verifying DD 214's discharges? Okay.
Yeah, the VA sits with us every Tuesday on those case conferences.
Really?
And does the verification with us, and it gets them connected. So they come in.
Putting these the veterans?
So the veterans, if they are eligible for what's called a VASH voucher, which is essentially a housing voucher, then they will get placed into housing. Yeah. In Aurora, I mean, they could use the voucher in other places too, if they needed to.
What is this housing? It's not a hotel, it's like they're getting an apartment? What are we doing with them?
Similar to just like a housing choice voucher through HUD. So they're paying, 30% of their income typically, depending, unless there's some disability status, but it's a housing voucher where their rent is reduced. It's not free. It's reduced, right? So
I don't care if it's an honorably discharged veteran and they don't have a job.
So
Quite frankly, I don't care.
So there's a number of projects where they're project based and they take VASH vouchers. There's one I'm actually on, Fitzsimmons Medical Campus. So there's one there. So there are a couple in Aurora, but there's others elsewhere. In terms of trying to have exits out of homelessness or temporary shelter, identifying somebody as a veteran is,
Is
there are
there's a lot
resources
more
there.
options
There's a lot more options.
for
We can
veterans.
do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's a
Definitely
Yeah.
easier to
verify,
help,
yeah.
but then higher barriers, in other ways.
Is there a group, and I'm not a fan of nonprofits, but is there a nonprofit that is working specifically with the veterans to like get furniture, get, like, I mean, we give them an apartment or something, but do you know of any organizations that I could seek out that are?
So we have about 5 different nonprofits that do case management and housing navigation. So those case managers will help arrange that with people. So like,
Can you email those to me? Can you email me those organizations?
yeah, they're the ones that have access to our flex fund and sit on that case conferencing each week. But like, for example, the Salvation Army Disaster Warehouse sits around 33rd and Peoria. They have a whole section of that warehouse that's just furniture. They'll give them, things to go to the Habitat for Humanity restore and things like that. So when someone gets a housing unit, usually the case managers help coordinate
Okay,
how they have some basic things
Okay.
to be set up.
all right, okay.
But that's the fifth piece. Any other questions for any of the 5 we've covered or anything else, I guess, in general on this?
No.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Staff, do you have anything you want to add? Is she still on? Might have lost her. I don't know.
Nope, I don't have anything to add. I've been listening the whole time.
Oh, you've been here the whole time? Okay.
Listen,
Oh, listening. Okay, good.
and Madam Chair, just for clarity, guys, I know public safety usually doesn't do this, but a lot of the committees take December off.
No, so I was just gonna bring that
Okay.
up. So we're getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Next is miscellaneous matters, and usually I let fire speak. City attorney. So we're just gonna focus on the agenda, sir.
I didn't have the agenda
We're
pulled
gonna
up.
stay organized.
I'm
sir.
sorry,
But
yeah.
Miscellaneous.
Interrupted my.
You know what?
And he likes to
step in
talk.
it.
I only
He
have
likes to
72
talk.
items today, man.
Oh, my God.
Some good news stuff. So, on the attrition piece, and to your point about morale, I think attrition has a lot to do with that. And I'm super optimistic about what Todd's doing, giving people the ability to use their judgment and discretion is a huge piece of that. But I know we kind of glossed over the attrition numbers in consent, but I think there's some notable things, at least for our department there. And we've had a 44% reduction since 2023 in our incumbent attrition numbers. And it costs us about $200,000 to train someone and take them all the way through their probationary period. So just from 23 to 24, that's $2.4 million that we did not spend because we lost people. And since 2022, where we topped out, it's been about 3.2 million that we've been able to save in not having to spend that money to hire people back. And I'm confident that you're going to see the same things happening in PD from talking to Mark and talking to Todd with what he's doing. I really believe that in my heart. Not such a good note, as you're aware, we started to collect violence against firefighter data in our user-defined questions. We started that in mid-June. Since mid-June, we've had 250 reports. Of that, 8.4% of those impeded operations, so our ability to either get to a patient or get to a fire. And then about 4% of those resulted in injury or damage. So more research is needed, right, to dig into what those injuries were, to quantify what the damage was. And then the bazillion-dollar question is, like, what do we do?
Was there a police officer present with fire when these assaults?
When we call for PD,
Yeah.
like if we've got a Mayday kind of situation, they're coming in there skidding sideways, lights flashing, sirens blaring. We get a very good response from PD if we have some kind of altercation. A lot of times we don't know it's going to escalate when it gets there, and frequently these are people who are in crisis. So it's hard to predict the people. Fire behavior is really easy to predict. People are not.
Right.
So it creates a little bit of a challenge. So just so for awareness right now, and just know that we'll be digging more into that when we can. The rebuild of Station 9 was just approved in planning and zoning last night, so we'll be moving forward with that in the first quarter of 2025. That's pretty exciting.
We still have 19 recruits in the academy. They're in their 12th week and will graduate January 30th. So you'll be seeing an invitation to celebrate that with them. And our application process is open right now for the training academy that's open on Houston 25. That's both a lateral, so a fashion application process and a full academy application process. And there are people who are interested in coming here from other departments, and it allows us to abridge the program to about 6 weeks in the academy.
So it sounds like you have more staffing than you need almost now.
I've said this for a long time, and I asked him when firefighters are gonna start moonlighting as police officers. This is the $1 million question, because you are overstaffed, sir, so
Yeah.
I've been asking.
Yeah, we're not quite
Get the
overstaffed
answer.
yet. We will field the additional staffing in January. Right now, the line feels that they're about 6 people short. And so we're looking forward to that, because that'll actually be the realization of those folks hit the line, that we'll actually feel that staffing boost and have the opportunity to send people. Because one of the complaints I hear is that you can't get training to go do additional training over and above what's provided by the department. I think that's really important. It's like support. We do have a single layer gear project. You may see that coming out. So if you're not aware, the turnout gear that we wear, the moisture barrier, contains fluorinated chemicals, so PFAS. You've heard a lot about it. Long-term contact with your skin, particularly if you're in a high heat environment or you're sweating or whatever, can lead to increased risk of cancer. This single layer gear that we'll provide, the members will be able to wear this protective gear about 90-95% of the calls. So keep them out of that flow gear unless they're actually going to a structure fire. We will provide all members, we're changing our gear vendor to one that still provides us really high quality gear. But when they sell us, we pay the same price for structural gear with a single layer gear as we're currently paying for our structural gear through Honeywell. So we're shifting manufacturers. The department membership was involved in that decision. And we're also adding a piece of PPE to our gear that hopefully will help reduce the risk of cancer. You're aware of the Aurora First Presbyterian Church fire that happened on Good Friday. That was an arson fire.
And I'm aware of who committed that Sundberg.
So after 170 hours of investigative time, they issued a warrant and with our PD partners made an arrest on that fire. And so we're free.
We made an arrest. And where's that gentleman at currently?
They crushed it. I don't know anything beyond the arrest, but I do know it was really good work. Like this is,
Better be.
it's unfortunate that the fire happened, but I'm really proud of the investigators and how they did.
And we posted on social media the arrest,
You know, I don't know
just to
that.
show that we're fighting crime.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. Cal will find out for you.
In fighting specific crime, transnational gang crime.
And arson in particular for us, obviously, it's a big deal. And we do have a fair amount of arson fires.
Oh, yeah.
So, that said, the ATF actually nominated so the Denver office of the ATF nominated one of our investigators for the fire investigation of the year, and he was awarded that. This is not presented every year, but it's the 4th time that Aurora Fire Rescue Investigation Team has been awarded that. Crash Responder Safety Week is November 18th through the 22nd. PD, firefighters, tow truck drivers, all those folks are at risk. We just saw what happened in Boulder with the police officers. So about 21% of firefighter fatalities are caused during traffic related issues. And so just if you can share that on your show, just share something. I'm sure PD.
Yeah, they're going out to the academy today to do a social side. It talks about it.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean,
Well,
that's just a
we
big
can
deal
look for
for
that.
us.
We can look for whatever is shared on the social medias and we can share that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Can
city
we,
council is nodding.
can we be invited to the honoring of the fire detective?
It already happened. It was
Oh.
right. And so they're kind of weird. I don't know if your investigators the same way, but they don't like their names like kind of put out there because it's a challenge for them. But I will, if you want to meet him and congratulate him, I'll send something on where you can do that. And then finally, this month we're raising awareness of drowsy driving prevention. So that's
Drowsy
driving, right? So lack of sleep and then getting behind the wheel. It makes a lot of intoxicated drivers actually a lot of the same things. And so we've got some safety tips that we'll be sharing, and I'm sure PD's going to be sharing as well about. So And you don't have to steal the microphone from me.
You were 72 on that count.
So that's 73.
One point on fire, we're working hard with ARDA in the city to complete 38th west of the new bridge to Tibet. So Station 12 can get into the Highlands a little more directly. And I think the city's meeting with ARDA today. They're gonna build up into a drainage box that needs to be figured out.
Yeah, there's just some weirdness going on. So they, just for folks that are familiar, so essentially from Piccadilly, over to, 38th, and that's the piece that we need to connect up, because then 12, Station 12 can come up, through, Majestic, hit Piccadilly and come over. 38th still doesn't exist between Piccadilly, essentially the tower. You can't get there yet, so they'd still have to wind a little bit. Piccadilly over to, I forget the road, but essentially that was built as part of Shamrock, but there's a gap right now between essentially the Shamrock entrance and over, and there's just some weirdness there. There's actually a portion that's in unincorporated Adams County, but it is all part of ARDA, so we're working through to get it built. It's on ARDA's list.
Response times.
Not responsive by like 8 or 9 minutes, just for that
I don't know if
route
you guys have
alone.
modeled it. It's one of those where,
Deccan, who is our predictive analytics software company, to complete some of the incomplete roads and factor that in to the response time analysis. My personal opinion is it may shave off a couple of minutes. I don't know that it's gonna shave off, 8 minutes. But we're gonna run those models. We're working with city IT and the GIS office to try and show, we're doing a travel network analysis map. And what we've asked for is existing road travel network analysis as well as the projected road travel network analysis.
Okay.
And so that'll give us the 4.5 minute travel times. And so you can see it represented on GIS about where the gaps are.
Perfect. I look forward to seeing that.
and the other piece of that, just not only does it open potentially with First Engine in, it just helps them building an effective task force, in terms of actually responding to it. We've got the same thing going on over in Cross Creek and Adonia. We've obviously got that station in Harmony, but getting some of the road network built up on the east side of Murphy Creek so that 15 can now go up there, right? So there's the connectivity just helps with all our response, whether it's fire, whether it's police. So getting those roads built is actually a public safety thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Does any other department, does anybody else?
I'll go real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's hard to follow this guy. I wanted to take a moment. I've really been listening to the dialogue today, and I wanted to take a moment to share with you where I am as a leader in my department and with my partners. And I have to tell you that for probably the first time since I have arrived, and I'm almost at 5 years, I'm genuinely hopeful and excited and looking forward to the work that we are doing together to really dive in and identify solutions and make permanent systemic changes that empower all of our people and support each other and really serve our community. And I am feeling incredibly encouraged right now. Chief Chamberlain's partnership and willingness to dive in and dig into the data and identify solutions it has been refreshing and very hope inspiring. And I wanted to share that with you. I appreciate it. Additionally, we're really excited to begin our work. So we've got about 6 months of pre-prep work ahead of us to really dive in for our protocol work. So we will keep you updated, but that is going to help us also identify long-term solutions for a lot of the systemic process problems that are barriers to how we're serving people. So we will continue to work on that. And then I wanted to just brag on one of my team members. So and you may be aware of this, but we have partnered with AFR in recognizing our first responders when they were part of a cardiac arrest event where the patient not only survives but survives neurologically intact. And Aurora is unique.
Well, it's a good place to have a heart attack.
Yes, if you're going to do it out of the hospital,
Unless you're in the Highlands.
Right.
Unless you're in the Highlands, you're dead.
But we do have.
Just kidding though, making sure.
On Wednesday, November.
Not confirmed nor denied.
Recognizing Station 1 and emergency communication specialist Maya Velasquez on our team will be honored for her third Phoenix
Wow.
Award
Oh, wow.
in her
Good.
role in a cardiac arrest.
And what is that role?
survivorship.
She's talking people through
Makes
stuff
the
over the
911 calls
phone.
and guides the caller or someone on scene
How to help.
to begin chest compressions until our medics arrive and take over and put hands on. So when that happens, and we hope that we'll have the survivor on site for this one. But those ceremonies are important because what it's doing is it's closing that circle for the survivor, for their family, for all of our responders who had a part of that. And it's so invigorating and it just really connects us all to our why again. I never had the opportunity to experience it
Yeah.
earlier in my career. So I live vicariously through my team members as they do it. And it's very powerful. So we're happy to share those with you if you'd like to attend.
Yeah, please.
We keep
please
them
invite
pretty
us.
low key because Alex's team is very camera shy. But we
That's why you just have to show up on them. You just show up on fire. You just don't let them know you're coming. You give Alec like 2 minutes. Hey, I'm bringing my kid to this fire station.
Yeah.
Just show up.
Made it happen.
You just show up.
911 comment.
Yeah.
I was at King's Cross at Peoria and Parker picking up a couple gallons of $8 orange juice.
Stop.
And, you know, I always talk to the cops that are on duty here at the security house shoplifting going on. They were dealing with a mental health crisis, homeless individual just went ballistic in the parking lot on the phone with 911, screaming to the sky for many minutes. And I thought to myself how it takes away that resource from you guys. I mean, not to say that his situation is not legitimate or whatever is taking place, but it's tying up a resource, right? And that patient had the patience of Job, right? Well, I don't have that patience to deal with someone screaming at me for so long, but I had to commend in my mind that person taking that call.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Please invite us to this ceremony. We would like to be a part of that. I mean, I would certainly, if I was ever, God forbid, in a situation like that, I would want to meet the person that saved my life.
Parents.
So, yeah, I would like to be a part of that.
We'll forward that to you today.
Anybody else? Well, I would just like to say that Operation Aurora is coming. As you've all heard, this is a real thing. I don't know if anybody else in the city is getting phone calls. But this is a real thing and I hope that we are preparing for that. Mark Sears would be a really good candidate to lead Operation Aurora here in Aurora.
Can we get him, can we change a name?
If I could get him one more hat, please, one more hat. I think he would be great, but on a very serious note, there seems to be a disconnect with incoming administration and the city of Aurora. So I hope that we are taking this seriously. This is coming. That's all I have on that. I hope I'm not the only one getting the phone calls, but.
And Madam Chair, if you are getting those phone calls, can you please direct them to my office too, so we can coordinate?
Well, I can direct them.
And not that they'll call, but, I mean, if they want us to be,
Yeah.
I mean,
Or I would just like to know, like, who should I coordinate? Because there seems to be a really big disconnect with the incoming administration and city leaders. And I know that some of that is personal. I know that some of that is personal. So I guess maybe if someone could tell me, who should I direct these phone calls? What should I be doing? Because if I'm gonna be the only one getting the phone calls from the incoming administration, that's a problem for me. So I just hope that we're taking that very seriously because
why don't you start off with me, and if it's something operational, I can live with Jason.
okay.
And that way because again, I just don't want them showing up in the city and my team not having the opportunity.
Yeah.
So.
That's my hope too.
Fair enough. So yeah, I'm open. You can give my cell phone number, whatever they need, and then I'll be the point of contact and we can facilitate among the other appointees and the staff.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any miscellaneous matters for consideration? No. All right. So yes, city attorney, usually in December, we take December off from policy committees. For this committee, it's unless there's an emergency, something going on. So what?
See, Councilmember Sundberg does have something that we were gonna come, in December. It's up to you. I mean, grants pass.
Grants pass. Oh, we can work behind the scenes on that.
You want to go to January then?
Or we could also go straight to study. It's your call. I mean, it's a.
I think we'll bring it to study session.
Okay, all right, fair enough. And then I know Councilmember Lawson had a YBPP thing that she was wanting to bring.
What's that up to last meeting?
No,
Redirect the funding?
There's a companion one. I've got to talk to her. She and I've been playing phone tag. I mean, if you're okay with it, as a council, she could go straight to study. I think you'd be pretty straightforward. It's essentially, not to steal her thunder. She wants to, she worked with, Jessica's team in the YBP budget to set aside some funding for our SROs to identify, if they're working with kids and, like we can get that kid into an after-school activity or sport. We've got some funding set aside, so it's just to help with that. And this is just kind of a resolution, kind of,
Is this redirecting funding or are we asking for new funding?
it's redirect, it's funding. We've already programmed, we had the
It
conversation.
says in 2025 budget,
Yeah.
if she wanted it, she just wants to kind of memorialize it in a resolution.
Yeah.
Let the council know, I think they know you all talk, and I think she wants to make sure you guys are aware of that as well.
Yeah.
Grants pass, we could just bring it up right now.
yeah, I'll do it right now. So, what Councilmember, so you want to do, you want?
Please, this was, our police department brought this to our attention that because of the Supreme Court ruling and there's some limitations on what we can do.
Sure, and so what the plan is that Councilmember Sundberg is going to bring forward is to amend our camping ban ordinances to meet what we can now do under law, but based on the grants pass decision earlier this year. So it's gonna.
That is, we don't have to have a bed for them. We don't have to give them notice.
We don't have to have shelter options. I mean, that's what I make sure
But
that.
the language we want to be cautious with and considerate of people still.
So basically what I would talk to Councilman Sundberg about is, and what was in the draft is saying we prefer that we have options available before we abate. And then the other item is to remove the 72-hour requirement. So if the teams show up and they're in an area that's not already forbidden based on the amendment that we did, this year, they don't have to wait 72 hours. They say, you guys got to go. If they don't go, they can abate it immediately. So
Discretion.
with discretion.
And what about
obviously.
trespass?
Same thing. I mean, that is the offense if they refuse to leave at that point. So those are the two men, those are legal now under grants pass. And so, I know Councilmember Lawson, I forwarded you an email, Councilmember Sundberg, and she's getting questions at some of her town halls about that. So if it's okay for me to share that with her, and then we can, but that's, I don't think you guys have any opposition to that moving to the study session. I don't know if.
We'll work either get it on the 2nd or the 16th. If you're all okay with that.
Okay.
What about my idea of welcome to Denver signs all around the border of Aurora, just letting everybody know where the boundaries are, so they stop calling in encampments that are actually on the Denver border.
Maybe we could have, we could have facilities look at where city limits.
I would like more city limits.
So it sounds like, so no meeting in December unless there's.
Right.
emergency. Okay.
Unless there's an emergency, yeah. If we could call a special, whatever we need to do. So then we will reconvene in January. That schedule will go out. I'm assuming it's gonna stay the second Thursday of the month. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, happy whatever you do.
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.